What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Stack. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And on The Stack, we talk about a bunch of comics that have come out this week, and we review them for your listening pleasure. Pete, are you pleasured right now?
I'm weirded out because you guys have switched positions.
Yeah, that's a good thing to talk about. That's a good note. That's just for all you astute listeners out there. Subtle change in the seating arrangement.
Yeah.
Yes, we should
out.
mention that.
Don't worry, we're going to tweet about it. It's
Sure.
going to change up the whole dynamic.
Well, everybody knows as they're listening to the podcast, Pete sits at due north. And
Yeah.
Usually, I am to the east and you're to the west.
That's true, but here I am on the east side feeling weird.
And I'm southwest right now, so
That's
I'm
right.
getting some of those caliente flavors.
Oh,
Oh
that's
my
nice. Tex-Mex over here.
Listen, this is your fault. You brought it up.
The chowder over here is great in the east.
Ay, ay, ay.
And that's not cool.
Let's jump into it. Talk about Plunge #1 from DC Comics /Hill House by Joe Hill and Stuart Immonen. This is the latest in Joe Hill's horror line. He has taken on this one himself, and this is a bit of old undersea horror as a weird ship rises up out of the sea and some creepy things happen. Ow!
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
I mean, that's
that
basically
doesn't-
it.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, that's
Garrett-
exactly what happens.
Alex's character real.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Hire me.
This
What?
is fun.
This
This is
Joe Hill guy is good, man. You should check out his works.
this are his many works, his great works. Gaze upon my works. This feels a little bit like Armageddon, one of my favorite movies.
Well, it doesn't
Armageddon?
It doesn't
Yeah.
start
Not-
off with somebody
not
hitting
The
golf
Abyss?
balls.
The way that they break out the characters, where they're like,
Sure.
"You're the only one that can do this crazy mission," and he's like, "I'm a shithead. Here's a bunch of dildos," which is basically the same thing as being a roughneck oil driller.
Sure, Bruce Willis
dude.
in Armageddon.
He's
we all
hitting
know.
golf balls. He's not throwing dildos at people.
Yeah, I know, but he's a roughneck oil driller, is what I was saying.
Yeah, I
golf
heard you.
balls are the dildos of the sea.
That's where the sport originally came from. In Scotland, it was about sex.
What?
Why do you think there's holes in the ground in golf everywhere?
Oh, come on, man. Don't make golf weird.
Yes.
Don't make golf weird.
Wow. Not the one sacred thing for Pete. All he has left is
To your
golf.
point, Justin, this does
Yeah,
feel...
to Justin's point.
to his point, this does feel like much more of the macho big action movie from Joe than a lot of his other work, which is creepier. I do wonder, though, based on what happens at the end, and I won't spoil it, whether it is going to tie into some of his other work.
Is there a line-wide crossover element
I
here?
don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
This feels more like sci-fi horror as
Sure.
opposed to magical or otherworldly horror.
Right,
But you don't know yet.
right.
I know.
We don't know anything. What did you think about this book, Pete?
Well, I love the art. This is kind of like a setup issue as far as like we don't really get into the action
Because it's the beginning,
Sure.
like anything.
Well, it doesn't give you the flash ahead and then flashbacks to 14 days before.
Yeah.
So we're building up to it. And I think it does a good job of kind of like setting up the world. And I'm excited that I wasn't too scared yet.
Yeah.
Oh, you'll get there, I'm
You're
sure.
going to be scared. You're
Yeah,
gonna be-
I really like this a lot. I like where it ended up. I liked it throughout. I think there's so many elements going on here. If anything, it feels like, what was that Scott Snyder horror book that he did with Jock?
Witches?
No, not Witches. There was a deep
Vampire
sea.
one?
No, there was a deep sea. It's American Vampire. You know what? Doesn't matter. It's fine. It's like The Abyss.
Yes. that
Detective
one was
Comics.
legitimately like The Abyss.
Yes.
Detective Comics, you're thinking.
Detective Comics. Yes, the one with Batman. That's what I was thinking about. Anyway, this is great. If you're looking for a new horror title, definitely pick it up.
This book is a hole in one.
Oh, boy.
You know what I'm talking about.
And now here's a hole in 2, Bloodshot number I think.
Zero. It's Bloodshot.
Typo, negative.
From
Bloodshot.
Valiant. This is written by Tim
positive.
Seeley. Art by Mark Lasing, and this is, as you can imagine, going back before Tim Seeley's current Bloodshot series, which has been hardcore action throughout, provides a bit of connective fiber between what had happened with Bloodshot previously, which
What
was...
hobby?
No.
Don't know. Wow, that completely threw me. Anyway, this one leads
Because
directly...
it's very stupid. It's like a stupid grenade. He throws it into a room and it ruins everything.
If you want your conversational topics brought to a complete halt, hire Pete LePage now.
That's right.
Yeah, I like this book. Like the rest of Tim Seeley's run, it's just a lot of action, and I think that's super fun.
What I liked is
Agreed.
at the end, the guy realized he was a real dick when people needed help around him,
Pete
Why
did
are
not.
you looking at Justin when you say that?
He always makes hard eye contact with me. Another behind-the-scenes comic book club. Pete can't take his eyes off mine. And whenever we're recording our podcast.
That's not true, man.
What's that? You're looking right at me
directly at him right now.
Now, Pete, this is an issue 0, which you hate
I
because
hate
it's
issue
not.
zeros.
You consider 0 not a real number.
Right.
Did it bother you?
It sure did. Thanks for bringing that up, man.
Nice.
I was trying to maybe not just one time not talk about that part, but cool.
No, man, we got like 3 bits and we use them all the time.
Yeah, I know that about us.
I feel like Bloodshot, though, outside of the number 0, appeals to you a lot because he's like Wolverine meets the Punisher.
Kind of, yeah. But it's kind of a good description.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward to the movie, Pete? They plug it on the cover, which is fun. That's a lot of fun.
That's
Yeah.
where you plug stuff.
I don't know. I got excited, actually, for Valiant being like, oh, you get to do the thing
Yeah.
on the cover.
And honestly, I think the new Bloodshot thing, it feels all right. It feels like
Yeah.
it's moving in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm glad he realized he was an asshole. It was bothering me.
But wait, are you excited for the movie, Pete?
I don't know if I'm excited for the movie. I'm going to see it.
Oh, cool.
Oh, great.
It's just another part of the unending trudgery of life.
Well, I mean, there are some that you care so much about the characters that you are nervously excited.
Yeah.
For this, I'm like, I like Bloodshot. I'll go check this out, but I'm not like, oh God, they better get this right. I don't care enough.
When do you have any pure excitement? What's exciting for Pete LePage left in life? Because you said you're nervously excited for things you like and sort of bored excited about things you only medium like. What's pure excitement?
Yeah, real quick, talk about how age flattens things out. Anyway, we should probably move on and talk about something I'm sure you are excited about, Pete. Wolverine, #1 from Marvel Comics, written by Benjamin Percy and art by Adam Kubert. He actually just did the second story. I should have written down who did the first story. Maybe I'll look it up, or you want to look it up?
Yeah, I can look it up.
Okay, thanks.
This story is sort of like Wolverine meets himself.
Wait, what?
It's like
Wolverine meets Wolverine.
kind of wakes up and he's like, oh God, I've killed a bunch of people again.
Yeah. So there's 2 stories in here, and it's almost like 2 distinct comic books, though I wonder if they are going to come together at all. The first story is, as mentioned, Wolverine wakes up in a snowy wasteland. The rest of the X-Men are dead. He's missing most of his skin. And we flash back, one of Pete's other favorite things, to show how he got to that point. They're on the trail of a new drug taken from Krakoa called pollen that humans are
Gotta
using.
get that pollen.
Bunch of things happen on the way.
That keeps life from evening out.
Looping back to what we saw at the beginning. And then the second story is Wolverine versus vampires, tying into the overall vampire arc that's going on in the Marvel Universe right now. Pete, #1 Wolverine fan, what'd you think about this book?
Well, I mean, Wolverine has been controlled before and killed his team before, so this start doesn't get me super pumped. I did like the vampire stuff. I like Wolverine messing up a bunch of vampires. That's always fun, because then there's a chance maybe Blade will show up.
What a crazy review.
And as we all
That's
know,
like-
Blade started the Marvel franchise that is now this
Sure.
booming studio thing. It wouldn't have happened without Blade.
It's just crazy to me that I think Wolverine and Punisher are your favorite characters, but your main thing is like, I hope we can get Blade, though.
Yeah.
That's like going and be like, ooh, I'm really excited about this pizza. Hope tacos show up.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope a meatball lands in my mouth. The artist on the first story is Victor Bogdanovich.
There we go. What did you think about this one, Justin?
I like this. This made me think a lot about the X-Men franchise as a whole. There's a scene in here where Jean Grey is on the team when they're going into this mission where we find out later that she's dead, but no one's ever dead in the X-Men universe anymore. But she's holding Wolverine's hand. Mm-hmm. And I think it's so interesting. This X-Men universe that we've all been in on is so interesting, so detail-rich, exciting, but we're not in any characters' heads, really.
Yeah.
It's all observation. And I'm so curious to get to the emotional interior of these characters. I'm so surprised that it hasn't gotten there yet. We get a little bit of Wolverine's interior here, but him holding hands with Jean Grey made me think, oh, wait, what's going on with the 3 of them living in a house on the moon?
Yeah.
Remember that whole thing?
Yeah.
Are they all thruppling?
I gotta say, I liked both of these stories, but I was a little disappointed that this first issue wasn't just Wolverine solo. Like, I think
Because when you see Wolverine #1, that's what
Right.
you think you're going to get.
yeah, exactly. And it felt instead like X-Force 0.5 or something like that, you know? And I think that's what you're getting to. The status quo changes in a pretty big way for Wolverine by the end of the issue. So I think we are setting up ongoing what is going to happen with Wolverine's solo adventures. But I don't know. Yeah, to your point, I wanted to see, like, there's a thing that happens, I believe, towards the beginning of the first story where Wolverine is talking to Kitty, and Kitty's like, "You're happy. That's
Yeah.
weird."
Yeah.
I love
And
that scene.
That is great. That's what I
And he
wish
was
we
playing
hooked
hide and
into.
go seek with kids. I mean, that's
Well,
adorable.
that's what I
And
wanted
I
to
love
hook into
that
it.
reminded me of when Wolverine ran the X-Men, ran the
Yeah.
school. Like,
That
I
was
like
great.
that
That
stuff
was
was fun. And there's a lot of great stuff to like here, but I think there's just this line-wide thing of not being able to be in the characters' heads as much,
Yeah.
and I want to get to that.
I think,
I also loved in the second story, Omega Red and Wolverine being like, fuck this guy, and now he's having to solve this sort
Yeah,
of
I
mystery.
do like that in the second story. I also think it's just going to be Wolverine has a pollen problem because he woke up, doesn't know what's going on. You know, there's a bunch
Like
of
bad
pollen.
allergies. He's gonna have bad
pollen's
allergies.
missing. It's been missing for a little while, and Wolverine's having some spots, not remembering stuff. You know, I mean,
yeah, we'll see what happens. I think it's a good start. It's obviously a beautifully drawn book,
Yes.
so that's nice. But I don't know. I want a little more in the second issue focused on Wolverine, personally. Let's move on to Deadly Class number 43 from Image Comics, written by Rick Remender and art by Wes Craig. So I feel like I must have missed an issue here.
It definitely felt that way.
Yes.
I don't think I missed an issue, but I was like, whew, what's this?
Yeah.
yeah, but this is great. We're finally moving things in the right direction because
Sex in the Woods.
Well, you know,
That's what I call
'cause
pitching
I'm
from the
reading it.
rough.
I was like, wait, are these still? He's still with Maria? That's not right. He should be with Sia. Saya. Sorry. So
See ya.
I'm glad that this is hopefully moving towards that direction. But every time I pick up one of these books, I forget about how amazing the art is.
The art
and
is
that's
truly
just
stunning. So specific, so
unbelievable.
unique, and just so fluid with
It's
all.
worth-
And there's a ton
it's
of
worth
action
it
here,
alone.
a ton of different panels.
So I like this just fine, and it's crazy.
Just fine?
Well, hold on. And it's crazy and just brutal throughout.
Yeah.
The whole gang is off taking a trip into the woods. They're at a cabin for a weekend of
Into the
drinking.
woods.
Yeah, they're doing a regional production of Into the Woods. And this is the second act.
What's with
when
you?
things go very badly.
Yes, the baker and his wife are really got it mixed up again.
There are big, tall, terrible giants in the sky.
Okay, all right. But
We're going to get there. Comic Book Club, the musical, buddy.
no,
Remember,
no.
the music's very important to this comic, as we see in this issue, which
Yes.
you could all
But
sung.
I'm never as into this comic book when they're away from the school. And
What?
when they reset after the series closed up, the TV series closed up,
Yeah.
and went back to the school with this new status quo.
Yeah.
Loved
You loved
it.
that. Yeah.
I loved
But
it.
come on, like that was so cool. He walks outside and there's a bonfire. And you think, oh, it's a normal bonfire, but no, it's Deadly Class. So there's somebody burning. in
human
that
bonfire.
Yeah, it's a human bonfire. And again, it's great. I
Burning
enjoy
Man.
this book. But it loses something outside of the class atmosphere. To me,
Fuck
it just
you for saying that.
To me, it just becomes assassins killing assassins, and that's it. And that gets away from the concept of the book.
I actually am going to disagree with you. I like when
Thank
they
you.
get out from the school a little bit, as long as they keep sort of bouncing between the two. Because much like the musical in the woods, when they get away from their normal lives, it
Yeah.
mixes up the
Dynamics,
dynamics.
yes.
Whoa, strange bedfellows over here.
Agony. Anyway,
We're triple threats, and none of them are useful.
Firefly number 14 from Boom Studios, written by Greg Pak and illustrated by Lalit Kumar Sharma. This is continuing the storyline where Mal is a sheriff on a small planet. He has found out that Blue Sky, the corporation that rules everything, is mucking with his planet just like everything else. And meanwhile, the rest of the crew of Serenity is trying to hide, essentially. This title continues to be great.
Really good. When they making Mal a lawman, I think really reinvigorated all the characters. It gave him something to sort of rally around. And I like that we're getting the action from different perspectives in the last couple issues. It's really fun. The art is really nice too in this issue. It's a great issue.
I really love the writing in this book. There's one line that really kind of stuck with me after I read it, where it was like, he was like, "Oh, thank God," spoilers, he got shot, and then it's like, "Man, look how lucky I am," and the other character's like, "You're not that lucky," and it's just like such a cool way to kind of write that and set that up.
The dialogue across the board is so sharp. I enjoy this book quite a bit, and even if you haven't followed Firefly, even if you didn't read the series, it's a space western. You can jump right into it and understand exactly what's going on.
Like a Star War.
What's that?
Huh? It's like a battle in space.
Oh, no thanks.
But with weapons, with unique weapons.
Oh, okay, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
I'm back in. Next one to talk about from DC Comics, DCeased Unkillables #1, written by Tom Taylor and penciled by Carl Mostert. Once again, have to talk about the spelling of this title. It's just very annoying.
Yeah,
God.
I could tell by the way you read it.
Take your editing cap off and relax with the common people.
I don't like it.
First off, I'd like to say the art also is phenomenal in this book. This is kind of like
really
a
nice
fun,
art. I like the story a lot as well. I think.
Yeah, I was surprised how much I liked
the
this.
title doesn't bother me. I think you need to deceased and desist when it comes to being bothered by that. But yeah, this is the apocalypse. I mean, it's like Marvel Zombies for DC, obviously.
Yeah, it's the anti-life equation has created these zombies. If you look at a screen, you turn into a zombie. If they scratch you, you turn into a zombie.
That's like real life too, man. You shouldn't look at screens.
This is following up on a bunch of the heroes, including most of the Bat family are dead. Here we follow some of the villains who have been side to the story. We also follow Jason Todd as he gathers up people in Gotham City. So presumably they're going to crash together at some point. But yeah, this is super dark, but great.
A lot of jokes in it, though, too, which I appreciated. Jason Todd writes, he buries Batman and a couple random Robins, and he writes on the gravestone, Bruce Wayne, son, father, bastard, Batman, which I thought was really
that
sharp.
Is great. And then he finds the Joker's body and ties him to the front of the car.
Yeah, that was a little over the top.
The Joker killed him, so he's mad.
Sure. I understand that, but like in the apocalypse, you're just going to use him in his ornament?
He says they're like Commissioner Gordon. I think is like, why are you doing that?
He's great in this. Like he finds out who, Jason Todd and Cassandra Cain, and they're like, hey, and he's kind of like having a moment with all of that. I thought that was really cool.
It's great. The character work throughout here is great. Tom Taylor also writes a great Deathstroke. The way that he characterizes him, so excellent throughout. This is really fun, and I think even if you didn't read the first series or any of the spinoffs, jump right in with this one.
I find it interesting that the Marvel Zombies, after having done the sort of world comedy horror apocalypse stuff, is now going into epic space stuff, and the DC version of it is back in the sort of comedy horror side of it. So they've sort of switched places.
Ooh. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Hey, do you guys want any podcorn?
I'd love some popcorn.
No, Pete. Podcorn. It's a marketplace for connecting podcasters to sponsorship opportunities.
Wait, Podcorn, isn't that who's sponsoring our show right now?
Sure is, Justin. Podcorn has a great, easy-to-use interface that lets you search for advertisers for your podcast and lets advertisers search for you.
So is there any popcorn or...
Wait, so what's the deal? If I use Podcorn, I'm going to have to spend a lot of time learning about advertising and dealing with financials, which is like a money word, and selling my soul to sketchy, horrible companies that make me feel like I want to die?
No. The opposite of that. I was actually shocked, and I mean this sincerely.
Thanks for being unsincere every moment before this.
Well, it's an ad. Anyway, I took barely any time to set up, and then once I did, it was actually fun to click through and find advertisers that might match well with our podcast. The whole interface is simple and straightforward, even for someone not financially minded like me.
True.
And once you do hook up with an advertiser, like, say, Podcorn,
I'm hungry.
Pete, just...
working with them to craft the right ad is supremely simple, too. You don't have to commit to anything you don't want to do, and you can spend a lot less time looking around for advertisers and more time on making your podcast great.
Yeah, so when do we start making this podcast great?
Wow. Anyway, you never give up your rights, and Podcorn is there to help protect you if there are any issues. I really can't recommend it highly enough. And hey, if you wanted more info, check out the link in our episode description. Once again, that's Podcorn. Podcorn.
So is no one else craving popcorn right now?
Pete, come on.
on.
Just eat a meal.
All right, next one to talk about on the Stump, #1 from Image Comics, written by Chuck Brown and art by Prezi. This is so much fun. I didn't know what to expect from it.
Yeah.
But it takes place in a weird...
It's all in the title, man. On the stump.
Yeah, I thought
Oh,
maybe...
wait, what did you mean
go
by
ahead.
that?
No,
Go
I mean,
ahead.
it's super clear what it's about.
Okay,
Yeah?
go ahead.
Yeah. You know, like you cut down a tree, and then the political people have to fight to the death to see who gets to pass what bills and laws.
Right. It's basically It's
I
not
think
even
we
a
ought to bring
future.
it
It's
back
like
to
a
that.
sideways reality where politics is death wrestling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Essentially. And it's pretty hardcore and brutal throughout.
Yes, especially the end.
Oh, my
That was
God.
too much.
Oh, that was too much for you?
Didn't like it.
No?
I didn't like it. I was like, oh, I really like this comic. And then it was just like, Jesus Christ. at the end.
Well, what did you think about it as a whole?
Did you like the stump though?
I found the stump to be a little like I wanted more rings, a cleaner cut. You know, I'm
Yeah.
from the woods.
Yeah, I know that about you.
So it's where and that's from whence I will return.
I knew you had to just
Excuse me?
yeah.
Do what?
But I did appreciate the fact.
I want to run an election on the stump against you.
Yeah,
me
good-
versus
good
you.
luck.
Because as Pete said before we recorded, I'm good at sitting down, and Pete struggles with that. So I think I've got him beat.
What did you think, Pete?
I thought it was a fun, creative take on something we've seen, and I thought it was interesting.
Something we've seen?
Yeah.
I think this is how elections should go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That's
I mean-
we haven't seen that yet,
Yeah, yeah.
except for in your weird dark fantasies.
Yeah.
I also like how light they are with the premise. They just sort of do it. It's not like in 2022, people started wrestling, started to become politics, and like we don't know that. It just gets right into it.
Well, it gets right into it. Also, it very casually, about halfway, 2/3 of the way through, is like, oh, back in 2002 when you were doing this. So it's clearly been going on for a while.
Yeah.
Which is great. Super fun. Definitely pick that up, but very brutal if you don't want to see gross stuff.
Bernie Sanders would crush at this.
Oh, my God. He would. He is
Feel the burn, bro.
very strong.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people
That's
don't.
definitely-
Hey, haven't seen him with his shirt off, but it's something to see.
I would love to see it with a shirt
Really, it
off.
makes me get on my 9-iron. You know what I'm
Moving
saying?
over to a Marvel comic book, Marvel's Voices #1. It is by a lot of people.
Yes.
Sure is.
This is a spin-off of the popular Marvel podcast that brings in diverse voices, people of color, etc. And here we get a bunch of one-page and several-page stories throughout the Marvel universe with people who have never written a Marvel comic book before, never written a story before. Some old pros. Charlemagne the God is in it.
Yeah, I love that.
Which is
He
great.
also writes himself in, which is a very Charlemagne thing to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Also, my former coworker Rob Barkman is on it. He writes the Surfer story, so that was super fun to check out.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
As usual, some of the stories are better than others, I think. But what did you think about this book as a whole? What was your favorite story?
I thought it was a great idea, fun to give people a chance to do see what they're going to do if they got a chance to write, in a comic book. So I don't know which one's my favorite. I'm kind of like blanking on that. I think my least favorite was the Snow Queen one pager, but
Emma Frost.
White Queen.
yeah,
I like that one.
Pete's a big Hans Christian Andersen fan.
yeah, as we all know.
Hans.
I like this sort of right at the top, the Wacky Races one, pitting the X-Men, the Krakoan race team versus the Wakanda race team. That was very fun. But yeah, across the board, there's a lot of good little bites. I mean, I want to see more. What about
Yeah.
Method Man did a story, Pete?
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's all you got to say?
it was awesome.
All right. I like the Ant-Man story in particular.
Very fun.
That was just a good bit.
Yeah.
Like it's Ant-Man and Nick Fury, and Ant-Man's like, hey, over here, I'm over here. And he's just playing with his depth perception because he has one eye. And they just go back and forth. It's a fun one-pager. And one-pagers are not easy to do. So the fact
No.
that so many of these worked is a testament to clearly the editorial team worked really heavily with everybody. And they got some good stories out of it. So it's definitely one to pick up and try.
Yep.
Next one to talk about from DC Comics, Batman #89, written by James Tynion IV, art by Carlo Pagulian, Gilliam March, and Danny Mickey. This is continuing the storyline where Batman is going up against 5 assassins who are working for a secret master called the Designer, who, as we find out in this issue, was given a brief, let's say, by Riddler, Penguin, Catwoman, and Joker. Was that the 4?
Yep.
Characters in order to destroy Batman. We also found the Joker dead the last issue, and this is a spoiler, so 3, 2, 1 spoilers. But the move that I loved in this issue is it turns out that the Joker is running his own thing at the same time this Designer thing is going on.
Classic
That guy's
joke.
crazy. He's reckless.
Yeah.
But I love that. I love that because it's always like we're reading the comic books and you never think about the fact that everybody's taking turns. Like it's the Riddler does his plot, and then Mr. Freeze does his plot, and then Penguin does his plot. Of course they'd be like, no, I'm doing my thing now.
Yeah.
And I
Especially
think that's
the
so
Joker.
great. Yeah, it's great.
They got to be on one big text chain, and it's like, wait, how long? When can I get in?
Yeah, did you sign up?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to sign up.
They have a doodle.
Yeah.
The Kill Batman doodle.
Now serving number 42. I really liked Harley Quinn in this. I thought that was fun.
Beautifully drawn. The Guillaume March art later on, halfway through the story with Harley Quinn and Catwoman is so nice.
Yeah, it's fun. I also like the way she was like, hey, there's a bunch of stuff going on, but also Joker stuff too. You know, it was a really fun way to kind of like have her explain.
Yeah, that's
it.
what I was saying. Is I think working that in was good. The characters are great. There's so much danger for Batman throughout here, which is a
Also,
very
Batman
hard thing
upset.
to do. Yeah,
Yeah, the Batman Catwoman scene was really cool.
Yeah.
It's using sort of so many elements from what's been happening in Batman lately, and then adding on a wild series of new elements and this new character, the Designer.
And also, Alfred's still not there.
No, he's there. He's
Well,
popping
Lucius
up.
Fox is there. He's
Yeah.
the new Alfred,
Yeah.
minus the sandwiches.
I like Lucius because he's sort of a little like funny. He's like joking around. He's not as like drink your soup.
It's too soon, bro.
Have some soup. I made soup.
Yeah, he's always
Too
pushing
soon.
soup. Alfred and his soup.
Yeah, but Alfred solves the crimes always by what food he brings out that gives Batman the idea that he wasn't thinking about before.
Here's your Joker soup, sir.
Oh, it was the Joker the whole time.
I love that that's how you think how food works.
Yep.
I need an idea for something. Let me eat.
I mean, a lot
Sometimes
of
you
people
got to
do
walk away from the problem for it to really come to you.
If you eat it, blood goes from your brain to your stomach, away from where your
Oh,
your
really?
ideas come from.
that. I just ate, so I don't know what you're talking about. Moving on to another Valiant comic book, Dr. Tomorrow #1, written by Alejandro Arbona and art by Jim Tao. This is, I assume, another dormant Valiant property that's coming back.
It's waking up.
Yeah. So this is a big old superhero. He is a kid.
Yeah,
He's like a young man, and then
Yeah.
there's a kid who's also him.
Right. So there's time travel involved.
Yeah,
Dimensional hopping.
I thought this was kind of a fun, bright book. Like I appreciated the way the kind of like art represented the style of what they were going for. It's just kind of a like superhero thing, but you know, who wouldn't want their future self to show up and be a badass and be like, "Hey, I need you, man."
Let me ask you: would you trust a younger version of yourself as your sidekick? Because that's what
good
sort of
question.
happens
Ooh,
here.
that's tough.
Dr. Tomorrow comes back and gets himself to be his sidekick.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing, and this is a spoiler for the last page, but the thing that I really liked at the end, they bring in 2 characters from Fred Van Lente's, what is it, Ivar?
Oh, yeah.
Time Hopper or whatever he's called.
Yeah, sure.
Book, which was super fun. So seeing them show up again, having them involved in these time travel shenanigans really got me on board because I like those characters quite a bit.
This reminded me of a comic from the Ultraverse called
Okay.
Prime.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that?
Uh-huh.
About it was a kid who sort of very Captain Marvel style, Captain Marvel from the DC universe, Shazam, became, but it was like a sort of a body horror version of that. And this feels like something's going to give with these 2 characters, and it won't be great.
Oh no.
We'll see what happens.
That's how life
fun
works
start if
once
you're
it
looking
flattens
for a
out.
fun kind of all ages book. Last one to talk about, Undiscovered Country #4 from Image Comics, written by Scott Snyder and Charles Soule, art by Giuseppe Camicoli and Danielle Orlandini. And we are continuing the first arc of Undiscovered Country. A bunch of folks have gone into the walled-off United States of America in order to stop a virus that is killing off most of the rest of the world. They've discovered things are insane in America. They are only in the first ring of America. There's a series of rings. They are being tortured by a guy named the Destiny Man and teaming up with a guy who thinks he is Uncle Sam in order to find a door to the next ring. Man, this book is so impressive every issue out of the gate.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's just so much going
Keeps
on.
getting crazier.
And it feels like you're running like 100 miles an hour through this story. So obviously, this is a first arc. I really like this book, but I'm excited for them to just sort of chill into the storytelling.
I don't know. There's something I can't quite hook into, and I keep thinking, we talked about this with the last issue, but I feel like I don't know any of these characters, right?
Yeah.
Like we meet one an issue through flashbacks.
Yep.
So that's how they're diving in deeper to the characters. That's how they're showing us what's going on with them.
Lost style.
But because it's comic books, because we're not spending an hour with everybody, you don't really get to know them that much. But it's so tense every issue, and the way they pace it out, it still feels like, oh, shit, when they get to the final revelations, even though I have this reaction every issue where I'm like, oh, shit. Okay, I don't completely know what that means yet, but I definitely have that feeling, you know? And because they're just masters of pacing that out in exactly the right way.
And also, like, you're getting to know these characters, but, like, the main kind of villain who's running the show, you don't really know anything about.
And is he the villain?
Yeah. And how does his antlers, like, they look like ghost glowing antlers.
Oh, ghost antlers.
Yeah, like his antlers died and they came back to haunt him.
Yeah.
That would be
that's pretty
scary.
fucked up.
That's every time I get a haircut, my ghost hair keeps showing up, haunting my head.
Yeah, I mean,
Or it's growing back.
if you
I don't know.
accidentally, like, hit a deer with your car, you have to walk around with ghost antlers.
What if you hit a deer with your car on purpose?
Whoa, that's fucked
Why
up.
would you do that?
Yeah, why would you do that?
Don't do that.
Why would you do that, Alex?
Yeah, Alex,
why would you do
Why
that?
would I
would-
do that?
why would you
Why
do-
did I do that?
Exactly. Confess.
Don't give us
I know
that
which.
population bullshit. Oh, the population is getting out of hand in this country.
The population of deer?
Yeah, that's what hunters say. Well, like, why are you shooting deer? Like, well, the population in this area is out of control, so we're trying to keep it
I
down.
mean, that's definitely not a real problem.
I mean, actually, it is.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, the deer population is wildly out of control. That's
If
one of
we
the reasons
let-
why there's so many more ticks.
Oh.
There's an uptick in
Look,
ticks
I
because of
don't know,
deers.
but natural selection, man. Let the deers
Yeah,
go
but
out of
deer
control.
jerky
grow
is
up
so
to be destiny
delicious.
men.
That's true. The deer will eventually rise up.
Yeah.
Especially
Bring it.
Especially the what?
That's actually the
bring it,
plot.
fucking deer.
You were just like hunters shouldn't kill deer, and now you're like, bring it, deer. I'll kill you.
Yeah, because deer jerky is delicious.
Okay, you're a very confusing melange of what do you mean?
Madness.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you all for listening to this podcast. If you'd like to support us, patreon.com/comic book club. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at the People's Improv Theater Loft in New York. Come on by and we will give you ticks, I think. Also,
Tickets.
tickets, right. That's what I was thinking of.
Yeah,
That's
Pete, what do you want to
TIX.
plug?
Friend us on Facebook so you get to know about the amazing guests we have on our live show.
Follow us on Twitter at Comic Book Live.
Check us out at comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and more. iTunes, Android, Spotify, Stitcher, or the app of your choice to subscribe and listen to the show. And we'll see you at our production of
Into the Woods. Agony.
Once a week, that blows your